Good afternoon, scholars and families, and to all of those of you that have joined us for this part 2 of our workshop. Thank you so much. We are going to go ahead and get started to recap what we went over last week and to emphasize, to add a little bit more information and then to actually show you the edit of an essay. We want to kind of do all that for you. Okay. Once again, my name is Mrs. Shaw. I have been teaching for the last 18 years. I'm a mom of 2. I have one student in college and one in 5th grade. English and reading, just my specialties, my passion. I've taught a little bit of everything with a variety of age group of children, but English and reading is just always been my passion and where I've done really well. As a side note, I've also worked in admissions, so I got to see the process firsthand of how colleges accept new students. Our agenda today is we are going to go over the rationale and making sure that you're placing the appropriate amount of emphasis on your personal statement. We're going to talk about personal statements, what it should have and what it shouldn't have as well. We are going to give you some tips on creating your own, and then go over the feedback and polish, reminding you that the feedback is really the most important part of this process. Lots of students all over the country write essays to get into college, but you need another set of eyes to look at it to make sure that the goal that you are trying to achieve with your personal essay, which is a persuasive statement about why the university should accept you, is achieved. Okay. As a background question, we want you to think about who you would want to work with in a group project. Many teachers are very adamant about putting students in situations where they have to work with a group. That is the reality of the academic world and definitely the reality of the work world. And many students are like, I don't know what to write. I don't know what to put on my personal statement. But basically, you're using your personal statement to show that you have the qualities of someone that is worthy of the investment that they're putting in you and that works well with others. The things that you think about when you want to work with a person on a group project, such as being able to get along with other people, being able to work through problems, being able to communicate, bringing your leadership and experience and unique perspective to the group. All of that is what you're going to emphasize in your personal essay, your personal statement, to persuade them that you are the best candidate for the position they have open. Okay. Colleges, universities, and employers review hundreds or thousands of applicants for the same spot. In many cases, there are 499 other people wanting the same spot that you're applying for. And how do colleges decide? When colleges, universities, or employers are choosing you, they are also putting behind you money, training, time, and they're also forsaking someone else who could be in that same position benefiting from those resources that they have. So how are they going to decide? You are going to submit an application. It's going to have your transcript. It's going to have a list of your clubs. It's going to have reference letters from teachers and people that mean a lot to you. It's going to have a lot of different information, and it's all part of the application packet. But everyone else is doing the same thing. So we want to show how what you're doing matters and how they're going to use that information to decide to choose you rather than someone else. Okay. The biggest part of that is you want to go from being a number in a pile to being a person. And so there are many things that you can do to make your application stand out. Probably the most significant one is your personal statement. Applicant 121 of however many people applied that year, freshman classes tend to be the biggest classes. Everybody's applying at that time. That person has good grades. That person has solid test scores. That person has 3 people that were able to write a reference. The reference letters are very on point, okay? And it creates a picture. If you notice, the picture is not completely clear. It's a little bit fuzzy. It's a little bit, we don't quite know who that person is. We know this person is a good person, or we get the impression that this is a good person, but we don't know who this person is. Then you look on the right side. This applicant is no longer an applicant number XYZ. This person is a person because they have added in addition to their good grades, their solid test scores, their reference letters, they've established themselves through their personal statement as being a leader in the class, as being active in the community, not just doing community service that was required, but they were active, and their presence in the community made a difference. And they're shown how they've overcome a lack of resources. Colleges want to see that you have faced challenges and overcome challenges, because college is for most students, it is a huge awakener for you, because you have to come into there. And for most students, this is the first time that they have had to face the world as an adult without a lot of the hand holding that can often get on your nerves, but it's not a lot of the hand holding that is provided for you in K through 12. Okay. Even though it doesn't feel like a lot of hand holding, you still have a lot of people there to kind of bridge the gap until you're able to take it on yourself. Your goal with your personal essay is to not be an applicant anymore, but to be a person that really stands out, a person that they want to interview, they want to get to know, and they want to bring onto their campus. Okay. I asked students, what do you already know about good writing and what needs to be included in a persuasive essay? Because your personal statement is that. It is a persuasive essay about why you are a better choice than everyone else and why they should accept you. But even in saying that, a lot of students think, well, this is a college application, I'm not going to apply what I learned in English class. And that is not the case. You want to showcase what you've already learned about good writing, which means your writing has a direct plan. Your writing has structure, and it's easy to flow with, and it's easy for the reader to flow with your thoughts. Okay. The first example, I know those of you that have the video have the option to pause it, so I'm not going to stop very long, but I kind of wanted you to see an example of an essay and just kind of point out some things that would have made this essay a lot better. This was a college entrance exam, or college entrance essay, I apologize, it's college entrance essay. So one thing that this particular writer did not account for is that there are typos, there are spelling and punctuation errors in this person's writing. Compared to how much space they had, this was a short length that they tried to fill up, and they didn't do a good job. Keeping in mind that if they have determined that they are allotting 4,000 characters for you to explain your position, they don't want you to try to do it in 250. They want you to utilize that space effectively. You definitely can't go over, but that doesn't mean that you get any extra points for giving less information. They want you to use the majority of that space, typically 80 to 90% of that space, in an effective manner. Make sure your spacing and just your formatting in general is not a distractor from the essay. Make sure that you break it into paragraphs. I know some students are not comfortable with paragraphing, but you want to, when you start a new main idea, you want to break that up and make a new paragraph so that it's easy to keep your ideas separate. Make sure that when you're doing the essay, you don't come across as overly negative. That can be very off-putting in both a job situation and a university situation. Most of us do not enjoy being around negative people, and you don't want to come across as a negative person. If you're going to use a comparison or analogy in your essay, make sure that it matches the point that you're trying to make, and make sure that it proves the point that you're trying to prove, that it just doesn't look like you just dropped it in there for the sake of trying to look smart. Many students are averse to planning their essays. This is a case where you cannot do that. It's going to come across as you rambling and just kind of speaking off the top of your head. And without that focus, it gives the impression that you didn't give this the time and consideration that was warranted. You also want to make sure that you have detailed explanations and examples for the points that you're trying to make. Create that picture for them, help them understand why you included that example. If you're going to mention something as an example of your leadership, what was the value in that? What did you learn from that? Okay. Under that same thought, do not drop quotes in your essay. I know many people have tried to do that in English classes, and it just comes across that way, that you just drop this quote in this essay and it's not helping, it's not adding to. Please use that junior and senior level skill of embedding the quote so it makes a point. I will show you an example of that a little bit later in the presentation, but you definitely want to embed the quote in there and use it to prove your point. Once again, this is a professional and academic setting. Please do not come across as too informal. You definitely want to be real, and it wants to be the real you. But the emoji, the way that you would talk to your friends, comes across as someone that's not quite ready for college, and you don't want to do that. You want to understand the difference between your very casual relationships with your friends and the very professional world that you are trying to enter in. Naming the course can be a strength as it shows that you've made a decision, but I caution you if you're using a common application that's going out to universities across the state, naming a specific university in that essay can backfire, in that if you've already decided based on your writing that you want to attend a certain university in your common application, the other universities will just kind of ignore it. They're like, oh, well, they're not a serious student, so I'm not going to give time and attention to this, and you may miss out on a much better opportunity for yourself. So don't pigeonhole yourself that way. Please make sure that the objectives and the examples do match up, that whatever you're trying to prove, the examples that you give prove that point. Okay, here's an example of a better crafted essay for college entrance. This person talks about their love of literature, specifically Spanish poems. This person gives examples of what they value as far as being efficient and wanting to understand things at an advanced level, but they also talk about some struggles that they went through and how they were rejected you want to be able to demonstrate, once again, like I said at the beginning, you want to be able to demonstrate that you can overcome obstacles, that you can face difficulties, and you know how to come out on the other side and learn from those things. This person goes in to explain that. They don't just kind of wallow in it. They explain that this happened, and then they give they tell how they felt about it and how it affected them, but they go into the specific steps they took to overcome that difficulty. Okay. They go in further to talk about how these challenges and these experiences have created the mindset that they have now, and what kind of person it has turned them into, which is something the university wants to see. They want to see what kind of person you are. Your essay should convey that. This person uses the last paragraph to show how they've grown and what they hope to do in the future with the help of being a part of the university. Okay. Your personal statement should include these 3 key components. Along with all the components of sound writing, you should include your background. Why are you applying for this major? Why is it important to you to go to, if you're doing a common application, why is going to college important to you? If you're applying to a specific college, why is going to this particular university a plus for you? Keeping in mind that the admissions team does not want to hear about your cousin telling you about the party life. That is not, they want to see you are coming in as a student first, and they want to see how you are going to succeed as a student, and because someone whose goals match up with what the university has to offer is more than likely going to be successful. Someone whose goals are this and they're not really academic is probably not going to be a successful student. But you want to use your words to create that picture for them. Create that picture of where did you come from and what do you hope to gain by attending college. As I've said a couple times, I want you to make sure that you include your ability to overcome. College is a rude awakening for many students. They come in and all of a sudden there's no one checking in on you. There's no one asking you how you're doing. There's no one there to bother you when you don't wake up. They're not calling you on the auto call. You have to have the ability to overcome the difficulties that you're going to face. There's lots of distractions, lots of things happening. But when you describe your ability to overcome, you don't want to be overly negative. You don't want to put that, well, I was just a lazy person my freshman year. I didn't want to do anything. You don't want to sink yourself either. You want to pick a challenge that was meaningful, like the person talked about not getting accepted into the student government, and talk about the steps you took to overcome that challenge and what you learned from it. Okay? You are proving that you are resilient. That is what they want to see. They also want to see your ability to make a difference. A lot of people get into the habit of just listing the awards, accolades, things that they've had, leadership opportunities, but you want to prove that in bragging correctly, you're not just going to talk about how wonderful you are. You're going to talk about how you were able to make an impact in the group that you were a part of. How did you positively impact the student group? How did you positively impact the community? How did you positively impact the church? If you were being a mentor or tutor to someone, how did you positively impact that person? Things like that. You are bragging correctly and making sure that you've got that, you can prove that. When you brag correctly, you are showing that your presence in that organization made a difference. Your presence in that organization added to what was already there. And that's what they want you to do to the campus. They want that leadership because they want you to bring something positive to their campus. Okay? Keeping in mind that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Your brain thinks in pictures. When we see something, it sticks with us 100 times. Even those of us that love words, it sticks with us 100 times stronger than if we just had it in words alone. So you want to create pictures with your words. You want to make sure that you leave that impression. This person that grew up in a large family that had very little money, this person who came behind and didn't have if you have all the supports, of course people expect you to be successful, but how were you successful despite lacking something? Okay. The example that I like to use frequently with a picture creating 1,000 words is the lyrics from the song Happy by Pharrell Williams and the song Can't Stop the Feeling by Justin Timberlake. Both were from children's movies, and I like the lyrics that paint the picture of happiness. The theme is the same. They're talking about being extremely happy. But what lyric actually creates that picture in your mind? Because you can tell me all day that you're happy, but when you say that my face hurts because I'm smiling so much, I feel like a balloon. I'm in a room without a roof. Like I just feel like I could just go anywhere. I could do anything. You're creating an image that sticks with me a little bit more than you just saying that you're happy. Okay. The lyric videos are available on the slide. You're welcome to look at that and kind of proves that both artists approached it differently, but the goal being that you want to make sure that you're showing that you're happy. You're showing that you are resilient. You're showing that you are a leader. You're not telling us I was president of XYZ club. You are showing us that you have leadership because you got your entire class to participate in to work at a homeless shelter to help the people in your community or something like that. As a reminder for those of you that are not already in your junior, senior, or those of you that have friends and cousins and siblings that are not there, it's a good idea to do these things leading up to your junior, senior year when you're going to apply so you have something to say. Waiting until your junior, senior year can add a lot of stress at an already stressful time. Make sure that you are doing things along the way to be able to say these things, to be able to have these experiences and stories. Okay. I am going to skip these slides. Those of you that have access to the video will be able, and the slides will be able to look at that on your own. I want to talk about how you can create a cheat sheet for you to use. Some of you have resumes depending on your coursework that you've done already, and some of you do not. Whether you've already created a resume or whether you haven't, you do need to keep a running list of the things that you've been involved in and the accolades and awards that you've written. It just makes doing these kind of things a lot easier. Okay. This is what your cheat sheet would have on it. You put this and save it on a Word doc or a Google Doc or somewhere where you have access to it all the time. You want to make sure that you have your goal on there. Okay. It is a lot. People that set goals, even if their goals change, even if they change directions midway, people that have goals and a stated goal are more likely to achieve what they're after. People that say that they're undecided, that they're just kind of here, they're just kind of figuring it out, they're not going to accomplish anything, or they're not, I apologize for coming across negative, they are less likely to accomplish it. You definitely want to say, this is my goal. You can change it later. You guys are welcome to do that. But I want to study this and to become this. I want to study English and history to become a professor. I want to study mathematics and science in order to become an engineer. Whatever it is that you're trying to become, go ahead and say that. Okay, definitely want to explain your background, explain what led you to be interested in the field of study, explain what led you to be interested in your university, in that particular university, or in college in general. If it's a general application, what makes you interested in college? I went with my family to enroll my older brother in school. I went on a school field trip to go visit UT Austin, or whatever the case may be. This is what made me interested in college life, or if it's a application specific to the university, this is what made me interested at this particular university. And those are going to come in handy when you're doing scholarship applications for that specific university. But definitely explain how your background, your experiences match your interest in that field or university. Okay. Your time at the playground may not be, maybe an interesting story, but may not necessarily lead to it unless playing on the playground made you wonder how things work, and now all of a sudden you're interested in engineering. Make sure it matches. Your motivation, what makes you successful or what makes you want to be successful. I watched my mom struggle for years and years to put us through school. I want to take what she's given me and turn that into something, turn that into a positive story. I see people suffering and I want to find better ways to help them heal. I see people without, and I want to find a better way to use resources so that people do not have to live in impoverished conditions. Whatever your motivation is, make sure you have that there. Definitely your challenges. What is a meaningful obstacle that you've had to overcome? We've talked about that at length, so I'm going to move on. Your successes. Make sure that you don't just leave us with that sense of sadness that you had challenges or whatever. Tell us about your successes. This is where you correctly brag on the things that you've done. Typically, you don't want to go further out than 3 years. Your kindergarten leadership is probably wonderful, may have started you on a path to success. But when you're talking about your personal essay, you want to talk about things that have happened within the last 2 or 3 years. Definitely want to add the value. Why is choosing you a smart choice for the university? What are you bringing to this campus? Just remember, thinking back to the beginning of this presentation, we were asking questions about what are you looking for in a partner for a group project. This is where you show that you have those same qualities that most people are looking for in that. Okay. Next steps, if you haven't already done them, make sure you create a list of your accomplishments, the cheat sheet that was on the previous slide. Make sure you go ahead and create that and keep that somewhere. Keep it in a folder, keep it on a place on your drive that cannot be deleted. Make sure you keep all that with you so you always have something to work for. For me, I have the same resume template that I've used for years, but every so often I go back and update it. I go ahead and tweak it. I go ahead and add things that I've done to the resume so it's a current running list, and it makes when I'm applying for something a lot easier for me. Okay. A lot of people take some of the things they've done for granted, but any club you've been a part of, any church or place of worship that you've been a part of, any community activities, any tutoring, any mentorship, anything that you've done where you made an impact on someone's life. Volunteer services are great for that. Any of those kind of things. Just list those accolades. Definitely if you got awards, accolades, medals, certificate, anything like that, list all that. But also just anytime you were able to make a positive impact to someone can be listed under here. Then your next step is going to be to draft the personal statement. Here, I want you to focus on the thoughts and ideas more than the grammar. Get your ideas down. Which points do you want to make sure that you drive home and make in your personal statement? When you come back to the step of proofreading and revising, then you can fix it. You can make the grammar work. You can do whatever you need to do. But make sure that you get those thoughts written down. Okay. The proofread and revise is probably the step that is very, very, it's not more important than drafting, obviously, but it is the second most important step. Many students write something, think it's great, don't share with anyone else, and then they can't understand why they didn't hear back from whoever they were writing to. It is very you definitely, even the admissions counselors say they can tell when you didn't revise. They can tell when you didn't plan the essay, but they can also tell when you didn't revise. They find errors that are careless mistakes that you can fix. You need to make sure that after you revised it and made it the best that you can make it, get at least 2 other people to look at it. Get someone that knows you very well. Get someone that doesn't know you that well. If you're really close to one teacher, ask them to look at it. Make sure that your essay gives a sense of who you are. Make sure that your essay tells your story in a way that the numbers in your transcript that you submitted do not. Make sure that you take any negative events or obstacles and you've shown how that has had a positive effect in your life. You're asking those people, and I would write it down, you're asking the people that are proofing your essay to check for that. Okay? Check, did you persuade them? If they didn't know you, would that be enough to persuade them to choose you over someone else to come into the university? And if not, ask for honest feedback and apply it as you see fit. You are the writer. Okay? We are here for you at A Better Chance for Youth Futures. So if you don't have a second person, we would love to be that second person to help you proofread and make it the best that you can make it, to give you that shot at your next step in the future. Okay, I have taken the essay that we did earlier and made some changes to that. I kind of want to see, I want you to see how much I took out that was largely unnecessary and how I changed it to make it fit the purpose and the goal. One thing that students tend to do when they don't plan is they ramble on and it sort of has no direction. You want to make sure that you're writing, when you're writing for professional and academic reasons, that your writing has a very clear direction. Okay. This student in particular dropped a quote at the very beginning of their essay, probably because some wonderful teacher somewhere in their life told them that that's how you write an essay, is you put in a quote from a person that you care about or know. In this case, this quote that they used came across as very negative. She used the quote where it says, very weak-minded, refused to be influenced by literature and poetry. And just because this may be a quote that this person agrees with, this does not necessarily convey what they're trying to convey. Okay. The other thing is they listed just a bunch. This writer in the original course listed a bunch of They listed basically a literary canon of things that they had read, and just because you've read these things does not necessarily mean you're a good person, does not necessarily mean you're a good English student. You've read these things, and you may have truthfully read these things just because they were assigned. If you're going to include anything that you've read or any information, you want to show how it's had an impact on your life, how it has changed you and made you a better person. So to that end, I've made the following changes. It says, as opposed to saying that I love to read from a very early age, a more meaningful, a more show not tell way to express that same thought is beginning with Eric Carle's The Very Hungry Caterpillar. I fell in love with the world of literature. That has an impact. You're like, okay, this person, the admission counselor already knows that you are recognizing that you love to read this children's book, but they're already creating a picture in their mind that this is a person that loves to read and write. And you definitely want to create that meaning. It says, like Victor Hugo from Les Miserables, throughout my life, I've enjoyed those undemanding and faithful friends. In this case, the quote was embedded into the thought as opposed to being dropped on top of the other thoughts and seemingly very disconnected. So as embracing the challenge of reading both classical works and modern texts, I can live as many lives and as many kinds of lives as I wish. Okay, and adequate noting who that quote comes from. Vicariously living others' lives through reading enhances both perspective and appreciation for different viewpoints. This person, instead of just listing all the things that they've read, because truthfully, they're not that interested in everything that you've read, but how has it made a difference in your life? And you bring into it that you've increased the perspective and appreciation. And then later on, you talk about how did you use that information? Not did you just gain the information, but how did you use that information? I use that information to help my class leadership team work through a difficulty and then create a meaningful problem for the people. Just show how you use that. As opposed to telling the people that you're a leader, you're showing that you can take information In those 3 sentences, you're showing that you can take information from one place, apply it in your life, and then use it to help others. Okay. Later on, as opposed to just talking about she's a great poet and she loves poetry and her friends told her that she was like Julia Stiles, the poet, blah, blah, blah. It says, by far my favorite genre to read and write is poetry. While watching 10 Things I Hate About You with my close friends, they comment about how much I remind them of the character, poet Julia Stiles. My poems, Shining in the Darkness and From This Side of the Mountain, won first and second place in the National English Students Contest. You are correctly bragging about your accomplishments, but you're showing how that ties into your love of literature. So when you say you want to major in English, it makes sense. Okay. Loving reading has encouraged me to pursue other interests as well. Last fall, I helped write the script and perform in our school's version of Downtown Abbey. You want to show that you're flexible and that in this particular essay, the person wrote that I'm not just a one-trick pony. Telling is one thing, showing is a different thing. Definitely want to make sure that you're showing that. These experiences have led me to decide to major in English with a minor in history and pursue a career in writing. You are stating a specific goal. Now, later on, this person may pursue a computer. They haven't said, I'm going to be a newspaper columnist, or I'm going to be a freelance blogger, or I'm going to be that. But they are saying that this is their goal and this is the direction they're headed. And you'll find that people want to get on that road with you to success. They want to be a part of your success. Here is where you would include information about the university-specific tie-ins, how maybe you want to join a particular club they already have. Maybe you have a connection with that, or this is where your accolades would line up with the university's accolades, or maybe even here you might want to start a club on that campus. People love new things. So that's where you would include that information. As opposed to just saying, in the original version, the student said that they were super competitive, and competitive is not necessarily a bad thing, but you want to make sure that you are putting the most positive spin on it, the most positive light on it. And so instead of just saying, I want to get the top grades, blah, blah, it says maintaining high expectations for myself means that I'm committed to not letting challenges keep me from achieving my goals. This is a reason that the admissions team would care about. You saying you want to get the highest grade because you want to get the highest grade is a you-centered reason. And while that may be true, that does very little to persuade the admissions counseling. But you having high expectations and keeping those expectations high mean that you are committed to not letting challenges stop you. Yes, this is the kind of student we want on our campus. As part of the insert college name or mascot name family, I am looking forward to continuing the rich legacy of literary pioneers who open minds one story at a time. You want to show how you are bringing value to that campus. Okay. If you notice, my rewrite is a lot shorter than the things that this person put in there, but it's also a lot more effective. You want to make sure that you're not just filling up the space with fluff. That's where planning comes in. Okay. I sincerely appreciate you for your participation. There's my contact information. I think the time before there were some concerns with the email not working, but you can text that number. You can email at that address. And please also, those of you that are watching this, please send us ideas for other workshops that you would like to see. We are here for you. We want to make this success happen for you. And thank you again for your time.